everybody, and welcome to the weekly scopes from the 20th to the 26th of July. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic Constellational Astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic Constellational Astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes, and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year. And Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates, so every year, regardless of where the sun actually is at the sky, the sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the sun and the moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra-parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination. Either both planets are on the north side side, or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contra-parallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contra-parallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between the opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contra-parallels happen, they can sort of like trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contra-parallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contra-parallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contra-parallels just kind of like provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contra-parallels and parallels are. So this week we've got quite a few aspects influencing us. We've got Jupiter making a quintal to Chiron. This entered on the 15th of July, is exact at 2:53 a.m. on the 20th of July, and leaves us on the 24th of July, and Jupiter is still in Gemini and Chiron is still in Aries. The Sun makes a parallel to Uranus on the 22nd of July. This entered on the 11th of July and leaves us on the 31st of July, so lasting us right up until near enough the end of next week. And the Sun's in Cancer and Uranus is in Taurus. Mars makes a contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node. This entered on the 16th of July, is exact at 10:56 a.m. on the 23rd of July, and leaves us on the 30th of July. And Mars is in Leo and the Moon's North Node is in Aquarius. Mars also makes a biquintal to Chiron. This entered on the 21st of July, is exact at 2:22 p.m. on the 23rd of July, and leaves us on the 25th of July. And Mars makes a quintal to Jupiter. This enters on the 22nd of July, is exact at 12:07 p.m. on the 25th of July, and leaves us on the 28th of July. And Mercury makes a biquintal to the Moon's North Node. Mercury is in Cancer. This enters on the 23rd of July, is exact on the 26th of July, and leaves us on the 27th of July. So a lot going on, and because of that, started a new thing. So I am just going to give an analysis just to sort summary version, and then you can skip after if you wish for about 8-9 minutes when I go into depth on all of these, right? So this week's main transits affect these areas of our life. Jupiter's quintal to Chiron. It allows us to heal wounds through wisdom and communication. The Sun's parallel to Uranus brings unexpected breakthroughs in our self-expression and all of the first house area of our life, how we project ourselves onto our environment and so forth. Mars' opposition to the North Node and biquintal to Chiron brings tension between our personal desires and soul growth, plus a creative healing energy. And on July 24th, we have a water trine day. So we have a new moon in Cancer, and the Sun is making a trine to both Saturn and Neptune, which are both in Pisces. So this brings emotional renewal with both, structure and spiritual connection. So we can be intuitive with the way we bring emotional kind of clarity to our life, but also routine, structured in the way that we do so. The Sun's opposition to Pluto brings intense transformation of our emotional foundations, routines, if we're open to it, and can also bring intense power dynamics to our relationships as well, and power struggles and impulsive reactions and actions. We've got a few quintals this week which bring creative solutions to our problems, especially Mercury's bi-quintal to the Moon's North Node and Mercury's quintal to Uranus. And of course I'm going to go in depth about all of these. So in terms of the main influences this week, first we've got Jupiter making a quintal to Chiron, which is a 72-degree angle. This creates a magical doorway for intellectual healing and mental growth expansion, right? Jupiter, the great benefic and cosmic teaching, and Gemini controls all third house things, communication and learning, and Chiron, the wounded healer in assertive Aries, creates a powerful interaction between Guru, Jupiter, and a karmic point of transformation, allowing us to have creative solutions and ingenious approaches to how we heal and manage our emotional and psychological health this week. So you may find yourself discovering new ways to communicate about your past pain and hurts, learning something that transforms your understanding of personal pain, finding unexpected wisdom through vulnerability, teaching others through your own healing journey and sharing that. This aspect benefits those working in education, healing, arts or public speaking. It's a good time to turn your wounds into wisdom and share that transformation with others if you're ready to. So you may ask yourself, what old story about yourself might be ready for a new, more empowering narrative under this transit? The Sun's parallel to Uranus sort of like brings a spotlight to our Sun, which is our core identity, our energy, our vitality, right? And when it meets Uranus, the revolutionary, the part of us that wants to break free from our routine and awaken us to new, right? This can bring unexpected insights and innovation. So as I said, the parallel aspect happens when two planets have the same declination and are both either north or south of the celestial equator, right? And this creates an intensified conjunction-like energy regardless of the zodiacal positions, like what sign they're in and stuff like that. So with the Sun in nurturing Cancer and Uranus in Taurus, this creates sudden breakthroughs in how you nurture yourself and others. It can make us take revolutionary, out of the box, non-conformist approaches to how we find security and comfort this week. And it kind of just brings those lightning bolts of intuition about our home and family and emotional patterns, those insights that can make us make big changes to our lives, and unexpected changes can happen, which may be scary at first, but they're trying to help us be more authentic, right? This energy can be a bit surprising this week, like electrical energy moving through our comfort zones, bringing downloads, insights of inspiration, and, shake things up in our day-to-day routine temporarily. So you can ask yourself, are you ready to let your authentic self shine through, even if it challenges others' expectations of you? Mars is contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node. With Mars, our motivation, drive and assertive energy is in the self-expressive Leo, forming a contra-parallel with the Moon's North Node, which is our souls, our forward evolution, right, where we need to go this lifetime. We are being asked to, balance our personal desires with collective progress. Contra-parallel means that one planet's on the south and one planet's on the north of the celestial equator, right? Which is similar to opposition in astrology. It creates friction between our personal creative expression and group ideals and group needs, and needs of family, our lovers this week, and our commitment to our jobs or anything like that. However, it brings opportunities to assert ourselves in service or in future orientated cause, standing up for those who are not heard in society, maybe creating a side hustle that can help others. It tests our courage, that pushes our soul's journey forward. It asks us, are we ready to leave behind the habits, the thought patterns that are keeping us stuck, and do the things that we say we want to do, being open to the things that help us grow. So ultimately, this aspect asks us to consider how our personal desires and creative fire can serve not just yourself but the greater collective vision, where you may need to temper, balance, your personal ambition goals to better align with your higher spiritual path and meet the needs of your emotions and psychological growth, And Mars is biquintile to Chiron, nice sort of energy, but a powerful aspect of mastery and magical manifestation. It gives us access to, out there, extraordinary creative power that we can use to heal. Through courageous, bold action, taking risks this week and daring to be ourselves. Both of these Chiron and Mars are in fire signs, Leo and Aries, right? So it helps us to integrate in a masterful, good way of our healing wisdom, things we may have learned through confronting our traumas and channeling that into our paths and plans, giving us the courage to transform pain into performance or, creative expression. Also allows us to take lead in our lives, and mix vulnerability with authenticity. There's a good energy for actors, performers, coaches, and anyone who uses their personal energy to inspire others this week. It offers genius level insights about how to, transmute, go beyond, change personal wounds into powerful creative forces. So you can ask yourself, what bold creative action could you take that might both heal yourself and inspire others this week? Mars makes a quintile to Jupiter, so when Mars, which is driving ambition, in expressive Leo forms this creative quintile with Jupiter, we are given, it adds to the chance, opportunity for us this week to be more creative and to, be more self-expressive. So it's good to launch new projects or performances. It gives us confidence to express ourselves authentically. So a lot of aspects is just giving us that push this week to be who we truly are, following on from last week's energy really. It also helps us to share our knowledge and talents with others and lead with both passion and wisdom. This transit particularly benefits anyone planning to launch creative projects and initiatives. It supports taking optimistic action and risks backed by intelligent planning. So you can ask yourself, how can you expand your creative reach, impact, by combining passion, action this week with clever communication and other strategies. So planning is key this week, and strategic moves, which is thinking ahead, right? Mercury's biquintile to the moon's north node, again, just allows us to have insights about how our thinking and communication patterns can serve our higher destiny this week, and it basically once again allows us to have out of the box solutions to problems, especially if we want to just break the mold and gain an intuitive understanding of how to express our care in future orientated ways, in new ways, coming up with new healing techniques to help yourself and others build your emotional intelligence. Maybe how can you use technology to build your emotional intelligence or integrate your emotional intelligence with your logical side. We can have conversations with others that we just feel like are fated this week. We can meet people, network with people that can help us. It also supports communicators, writers and connectors this week, and those who bridge emotional intelligence with future thinking approaches, so we can ask ourselves, what communication patterns do we need to master to step into our highest destiny fully, So, this week we can ask ourselves how our personal trauma can actually be portals, springboards to help us reach our greatest potential. This week we can see the gift in them, and this is not to invalidate your feeling or to invalidate the pain of others, of course, but to shine a light on how you can reclaim your life, the control of your life this week. And also you can ask yourself what unexpected insights into your consciousness that you usually dismiss as struck off as random, what may be actually divine or other guidance trying to lead you to a better life for yourself. Also, what brave action can you take to heal old wounds this week? And most importantly, the question to ask yourself or reflect on is that if the universe is conspiring to help you transform pain into purpose this week, which a lot of aspects are, right, are you ready to meet that opportunity with open arms? Are you ready to build something new, and take that leap of faith and be open to a rainbow of new possibilities, right? So my mantras and guidance for this week are based on the majority of energies that you have in your natal chart. So some of you may have natal charts that are dominant in more than one energy. You may have your rising sign, your sun sign and your moon sign all in different energies. You may have aspects to different planets. So ultimately this could mean you have some planets that are in fire, some in water signs, some in earth signs. So for example, if you have most of your planets in Aries, Scorpio and Capricorn, read the mantras for all of these signs. And if you have all your planets mostly in Taurus, read the mantra for Taurus, but you may also want to read for Libra because Venus rules Taurus and Libra, right? So yeah. So this week, Aries, you've got Chiron in your sign forming aspects with both Jupiter and Mars this week. So your wounds can become your teaching tools. So be open to the creative energy that these aspects are providing that can help you transform past hurts and pain into unique strengths. The Mars-Jupiter quintile kind of ignites, motivates your courage to share these lessons with others and create powerful breakthrough moments, right? So a mantra may be, my words are my wisdom, my courage is my gift. Taurus, your sign gets multiple activations this week, especially with the Sun and Mercury bringing unexpected changes to your security systems, your routine structures, the way your comfort zones. Venus in your sign until the 26th squares both Mars and the North Node, creating tension between comfort and necessary growth. Remember that evolution growth requires leaving some treasures, leaving the past behind, even if sometimes you want to hold on to some things, sometimes we have to leave the things behind so we can bring new into our life, and not doing that we can remain stuck, and Taurus energy finds it hard to change, right? So your mantra can be, I am open to change while honouring what truly matters. Gemini, Jupiter in your sign forms a quintile to both Chiron and Mars, gifting you with exceptional communication skills to heal others and yourself. As Venus enters your sign on the 26th, your words carry extra charm and impact. We can use this power to express deeper truths rather than just clever opinions. So your mantra can be, my words heal when spoken with authentic purpose. So yeah, be open to healing yourself and others with your words this week. Cancer, with a powerful new moon in your sign plus Sun aspects to Saturn, Neptune and Pluto, this is a week of deep emotional renovation change, right? If you're open to it, your sensitivity can become your superpower during the water trine day I mentioned earlier. But the opposition to Pluto requires releasing control of emotional and other outcomes this week, and for you to trust the transformation, the process of change, right? So your mantra can be, I build build new emotional foundations, routines by releasing what no longer serves me right. Leo, Mars in your sign makes significant aspects this week, highlighting the tension between personal ambition and collective purpose. The quintile to Jupiter on the 25th offers creative solutions to leadership challenges, while the moon entering your sign on the 26th brings emotional clarity about your authentic path, right? Your mantra can be, I lead most powerfully when serving a greater purpose. Virgo, Mercury, your ruling planet, forms two quintile aspects towards the end of the week, right? So this boost increases your problem solving abilities and allows you to be more innovative in your thinking, and the mental downloads you receive right now connect practical matters to intuitive insights, right, especially regarding your future path and community connections, relationships. So your mantra can be, I trust the brilliant solutions that come from both logic and intuition. Libra, your ruling planet Venus moves from Taurus to Gemini this week, shifting your relationship focus from security to communication. The challenging squares Venus forms between this transition, so where you've been clinging to possessive patterns, and the best way forward is to allow the airy Gemini energy to help you hold relationships more lightly, and not think that you have to solve relationship issues by meeting everyone's needs and people pleasing. So ultimately this week your mantra is, I cultivate, develop and maintain connections through curious conversation rather than control, because people pleasing can be the highest form of control, right? Scorpio, with the sun opposing Pluto, this creates intense transformative energy that can affect your emotional foundation, routines and your career structures, right? So this power dynamic requires conscious surrender rather than control. The more you resist this week, the more intense it becomes, but a breakthrough awaits on the other side if you just let go of trying to control and try not to obsess, right? So your mantra this week is, I surrender to the transformation, the change process, right? Knowing my power grows through release, letting go. Sagittarius, your ruling planet Jupiter forms creative quintiles to both Chiron and Mars this week, expanding your perspective on healing and action. The innovative spiritual insights you receive now can be practically applied through the water chimes that happen on the 24th, right? Trust that your optimism has practical applications, and your mantra can be, my wisdom grows when I connect hope with healing action. Capricorn, Pluto in your sign opposes the sun in Cancer, bringing deep unconscious material to the surface for transformation. So it can be scary this week because old trauma can come up, right? But if you take a structured approach that typically, meets emotional intelligence, especially during the Sun-Saturn trine on the 24th, the balance doing this will renovate, change your foundations and routines with both strength and sensitivity. So be open to feeling things, right? And your mantra can be, I build lasting structures by honouring emotional truths, right? And Aquarius, the North Node in your sign receives multiple aspects this week, highlighting tensions between collective purpose and individual expression. And Mars directly opposes your evolutionary direction, and this requires you to realign, your personal ambitions and goals with your authentic future and self. And this creative tension will ultimately serve your growth, if you're willing to get outside of your comfort zone. And your mantra can be, I align my personal power with evolutionary purpose. And Pisces, with both Saturn and Neptune in your sign, forming supportive trines to the sun in Cancer, your spiritual insights can gain practical application. The new moon on the 24th activates your creative sector, while supporting your fifth house stuff, right? So pay attention to what planets you've got there in your natal charts and your aspects and what you need to do. And this can support emotional renewal, rebirth, trust the dreaming void periods that happen this week, especially, the void of course moon periods may be a good time for you to take some time out and integrate what needs integrating this week, and your mantra can be, my dreams become a reality when I honour both structure and surrender. So because I love you guys, I've got some more mantras this week. I may not do this every week, but Aries, again, turn your battle scars into teaching moments as Mars by quintals Chiron in your sign. Taurus, revolutionary stability comes when you build security systems that welcome change. Gemini, your curious mind is the perfect vessel for Jupiter's healing wisdom this week. Cancer, your new moon brings emotional change. Demolish before you rebuild, let go before you build again. Leo, your dramatic flair expression serves a higher purpose when aligned with collective evolution. Virgo, Mercury's quintals activate your problem-solving genius in unexpected ways. Libra, release possessive patterns as Venus shifts from earthly security to airy freedom. Scorpio, surrender control to gain true power as Pluto opposes the emotional sun. Sagittarius, your optimism becomes practical magic when Jupiter quintals Mars. Capricorn, structural transformation requires emotional honesty built from the inside out. Aquarius, your revolutionary path requires releasing ego attachments to outdated identities. And Pisces, dream and do at the same time as both your rulers trying the nurturing sun in Cancer, right? And Jupiter is seen as the co-ruler of Pisces, right, with Neptune. So yeah. So in terms of the content you can create during this week, or the content you should listen to or watch this week, content that focuses on healing through storytelling, the energies of Jupiter's quintal to Chiron this week creates the perfect energetic backdrop for sharing how-to content that transforms personal wounds into wisdom. Think 5 communication techniques that healed my confidence issues, sort of like content. Disruptive authenticity, the sun's parallel to Uranus, helps us to, create content that breaks tradition while remaining emotionally resonant, and this vibe screams comfort zone disruption, so content that pushes us from our comfort zone, right? And content about how we can find our purpose and stick to routines and create routines that help us meet our life goals, right? Content about taking brave, courageous, meaningful action towards our highest potential and letting go of the things we need to. And Mars in Leo loves dramatic demonstrations. So this energy can bring and allow us to express compelling calls to action, content that, pushes the listener viewer to do things, or, or content that inspires you to get outside of your comfort zone, right? Content about future trends and unconventional ideas about where the collective consciousness is heading, how we can heal our psychological and emotional trauma, right? And ultimately, content that transforms pain into for action can help us, do the things that we need to do to change our life, giving strategic step-by-step guides on how we can express our emotions in healthy way and manage our spiritual health in healthy ways, and our physical health and financial health as well. So yeah, creators, questions you can ask yourself is, how can you transform your personal wounds into your most unique content offerings? You can also ask yourself, what unconventional perspectives could you share that may initially feel too out there but could actually be exactly what your audience needs right now, And if you don't create content, you can ask yourself, what could you watch right now, listen to, read right now that can push you outside of your comfort zone, yeah? So yeah, now I'm just going to talk about the day-to-day aspects that are enchanting, influencing the main aspects of this week, So on the 20th of July, the moon enters Taurus at 1:42 a.m. Jupiter's quintal to Chiron is exact at 2:53 a.m. and Venus's sextil to Pluto is exact at 11:43 p.m. lasts for 3 days, and Venus is in Taurus and Pluto's in Capricorn. The moon in Taurus adds to the stability of this week and helps us to focus on comfort and sensuality. We can basically get ourselves in pleasure seeker mode. Our emotional satisfaction can come through physical comforts, like wanting to have amazing food and drink, and just get in touch with the sensual things of life, like soft fabrics and nature walks. And we may feel less willing to compromise on what makes us feel secure right now, so we may want to just stay in our comfort zone because it adds to the stubborn vibes, right? But it also brings sensory healing. Our 5 senses can become powerful gateways to our emotional well-being right now. Venus's sextil to Pluto creates a proper power struggle in relationships, we can become more possessive this week because of this. The need to control what or who we value intensifies dramatically. We can have financial power plays. Money and resources can become battlegrounds for deeper control issues. Also, booty as power. It can make us use our attractiveness or charm to get what we want this week. It is tempting to do so, but it's also problematic, so try not to do this, and be aware that someone may be using their charm or being nice just to get what they want from you. But also allows us to transform our relationships, right? Allows us to let the things die and let go of the things that we need to let go of in our relationships, so we can have healthier relationships. So some of you may break up, or someone may break up with you, and it may be hurtful, but a lot of the times the things that happen in our life are meant to happen, and if something's meant to be, it will come back to you. So it's best to let go of what needs to be letting go of at this time. It brings structural routine transformation and truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. This is the universe saying that thing we are clinging to, it needs to change. It needs to change. We need to let go of. We can ask ourselves, how may our stubborn Taurian comfort seeking, because all of us humans, whether we've got Taurus energy in our chart or not, in general don't like to get outside of our comfort zone. We find our comfort what makes us feel happy in the moment, even if it can be toxic. Like we can have a addiction to drugs or alcohol, but it's our comfort thing. It numbs us from reality, and we may like this, right? So it wants us to think about the habits we have in our day-to-day life that are preventing the change we need to have, especially in our relationships. We may love someone, but our relationship with them may be highly toxic, so think about, is your relationship healthy? Can you make it more healthy? If not, is it best that you let it go? And it can be painful, and it's easier to say the thing than do the thing. I know, I understand. I've left someone, went back, left someone, went back, left someone, went back, ad infinite times until you wake up and smell the coffee, right? And sometimes you have to choose your own sanity and peace of mind, right? So you can ask yourself what wounds that you have, what psychological, emotional and spiritual trauma can be the source of your most creative healing gifts for yourself and others, and most importantly, what possessive patterns do you need to release to experience true abundance and love and value, rather than scarcity driven control, fear driven control. On the 21st of July, Mars makes an opposition to the moon's north node at 3 a.m. The moon enters its balsamic moon phase at 10:31 a.m. and the moon enters void of course at 8:52 p.m. So Mars is opposition to the moon's north node, and when Mars is in Leo and the north node is in Aquarius, so polarizing energy, right? Fits fire and fits air right, the 5th and 11th house, giving, you know, major face-off energy, protagonist versus society, you know, sort of vibes. We're seeing and experiencing a classic battle between our personal desires and collective destiny, you know, meeting our own needs and meeting the needs of the collective and our relationships. So ultimately we've got Rahu, you know, the North Node, pulling us towards our future karma destiny, and then we've got Mangal, Mars, fighting to assert individual will right, and it's like our personal GPS wants to go one way, but our astrological traffic control has other plans. So on the good side, it's perfect for identifying where we've been stubbornly resisting change, right? It offers breakthrough realizations about how our personal actions impact others. It creates dynamic energy that can break stagnant patterns, and it provides courage to confront karmic patterns, right? But in terms of the challenging bits, it can trigger impulsive actions that work against our soul's growth. It may bring confrontations with groups or social circles. It increases frustration when our ego-driven desires hit roadblocks, you know. We can just feel like we're not getting our own way and we want our own way, and you know, we have to understand that other people have needs and rights to do what they want, and we shouldn't enforce our will on others. It can create a me versus them mentality, you know, but the best use of this energy is to channel any competitive, egotistical, selfish energy into things, causes and habits, you know, that benefit everyone. Examine where your personal ambitions, goals may need changing, realignment with a higher purpose. Use the tension to understand your life purpose more clearly, and practice active meditation to transform reactive energy, right? When the moon enters its balsamic moon phase, it allows us to be very self-reflective, and it balances the Mars North Node battle, creating a reminder to surrender before asserting ourselves, before, you know, crossing people's boundaries and thinking our way is the right way. The ancient yogis consider this time as a good time for releasing attachments and preparing for new beginnings over the next 3 to 5 days. The moon's in its balsamic moon phase, right? So just think about what you need to let go of, what you've been clinging to, and, you know, consciously make the choice to release it. So today you can ask yourself how your personal goals may be aligning or conflicting with your life direction. Where may you be fighting against necessary change? You know, what old patterns are you ready to release? Are there situations where surrendering control might actually bring you closer to your authentic destiny, make you more happy, more balanced? You know, on the 22nd of July, Venus makes a square to the moon's north node at 2:21 a.m. The moon enters Gemini at 3:45 a.m. and the sun makes a parallel to Uranus at 11:04 p.m. and I talked about this earlier this week. It's one of the main aspects governing us, controlling us this week. So yeah, Venus is square to the moon's north node. Happens when Venus is in Taurus and the moon's north node is in Aquarius, and that's for the next couple of days. The sun's parallel to Uranus is exact, as I said, at 11:03 today p.m. and leaves us on the 31st of July, right? So Venus is square to the moon's north node, again, allows us, it gives us that treat yourself energy and evolve yourself responsibilities that come with that. So again, it can add to us feeling pulled between meeting our material desires. We may just want to while out, you know, as Lady Dynamite sings, and just overindulge in hookups, drinking, alcohol, drugs and food and all the rest of it. But, you know, that may get in the way of us wanting to grow spiritually and intellectually and psychologically. Our relationships may feel caught between tradition and innovation, you know, wanting to take a new direction. As I said, this week we've got a lot of energy that wants us to look at our relationships, especially those that are holding us back and are toxic for our overall well-being. You know, our bank accounts can say save, while our future self says invest in change, you know. So just thinking about, yeah, we all need a bit of security, you know, because Venus is in Taurus, giving us a security blanket and wanting to do the things that bring us comfort, right? But the North Node is wanting us to take the road less traveled, to move forward, to let go of our toxicity. And if you read the book A Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck, he puts forward the view that a lot of the time, and I believe this, we know the right things to do, but it's hard to do. It's easy to say life be life, and sometimes we just want to intoxicate ourselves because life can be depressing at times. It's not easy. I'm not saying any of the things I talk about is easy to do, but astrologically we're being supported to grow, even though it is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to get outside of your comfort zone at first, even years after, but for me it's one of the best things I've done in my life, and that's why I make the content I do, because I've been there, through the missing and longing, the toxic relationships that I used to be in, but having seen how much better I am without them, I believe that we should all take the road less traveled, So when the moon enters Gemini, it allows us to be more curious, more adaptable, but we just need to watch out for before gossiping, and being too surface with this energy and superficial and just taking in information for the sake of it and, lacking focus, But if we're used to Gemini moon energy, our communication can become a super powerful processing change, meeting change, Again, it's another energy that wants us to get outside of our comfort zone and find new ways of stability, find new comfort zones that are not toxic but healthy for your well-being. So the best use of this energy is to journal, write about what values truly serve you and for your future self, have those difficult but necessary conversations about your relationship needs, get real with yourself about the mindset and behaviour and patterns you need to change to reach your life goals, Try to make one small significant change to your daily routine and balance self-care with self-challenge. Challenge yourself to get outside of your comfort zone, Don't fight the tension, as it's literally the point of these aspects and this week's energy. It's wanting us to get friction. The friction between comfort and growth is where the magic happens, and being supported astrologically to get outside of our comfort zone, So we can ask ourselves how our current attachments to security and comfort, represented by Venus in Taurus, is blocking our growth, right? And again, what small change can you make? Because each of these energies want us to break things down into day-to-day small changes that, have a butterfly effect, become big changes, So take a moment to feel things and be open to your future self, which is literally waiting for you to connect these dots, between newness and oldness, and to let go what you need to let go of. On the 23rd of July, the Sun makes a set star to Uranus at 6:32 a.m. Venus makes a square to Mars at 9:23, and Mars' contra-parallel to the Moon's north node is exact at 10:57. And Mars makes a biquintile to Chiron at 2:23, so a lot of Mars energy today, right? So yeah, the Sun sextile to Uranus allows us to be open to nurturing ourselves and others, to change the things. It supports us in changing the things that we need to. It gives us comfortable chaos energy, like rearranging your furniture and suddenly feeling your whole life change, With the Sun harmonizing with Uranus, it's creating an opening for breaking patterns while still feeling emotionally secure. So this is good. A lot of energy, as I said, this week wants us to change, and this is supporting us to make those changes while still feeling stable and grounded, So think of it as rewiring your comfort zone rather than abandoning it, changing what brings you comfort, as I said, so we can have sudden insights about our family patterns that are destructive or destructive emotional habits, and this can give us the power to move forward and gives us creative solutions to our financial or resource challenges, makes us be able to think about the resources we have, like our time and energy, and how we can use them more productively, and how we can move forward and grow. Even though we may have financial challenges, yes, you may not have the money to be a therapist, but you have you, right? You can, even it's just 5 minutes a day watching a video, listening to a podcast, while you're sleeping even on, you can move, to help and improve your life. There's always where there's a will, there's a way, it's a saying, and there's always a way you can help yourself no matter what challenges you may have. It allows us to find unconventional ways to nurture ourselves and others, but it can make us restless within comfortable environments, and it can lead to impulsive decisions about our home and belongings. So it's a perfect energy that we can use to intuitively upgrade the way we use technology, or for some of you it can just be unconventional decorating choices or changing the colour of the socks you wear or something like that, and making changes to your home environment that supports your emotional well-being. Venus is square to Mars is basically the astrological equivalent of Netflix and chill, right? Meeting, let's make a TikTok about our relationship, competing desires that create the least tension, which we have a lot of this week, creating tension between our routine and our passion, right? And the fixed quality of both signs makes compromise challenging, to say the least, so we can have intense magnetic attraction to people right now, especially if we're in a romantic relationship. We may feel attracted to someone else. It adds to our creative passion. It helps us to be more creative and inspired creatively and artistically, and we can just be motivated romantically to have like special date nights, or to love on ourselves if you are single or self-partnered, date night with yourself, nice meal, nice drink. But negatively, it can bring stubborn standoffs between comfort and action, possessiveness clashing with the need for admiration and external validation. Try and meet the need for validation within, and our financial impulses and right now can sort of get in the way of us making the changes we need to make. Right, we may decide we need to start saving more, but our ego desires may want us to spend more as well. So the power move with this energy is to channel it into creative expression or passionate plans rather than relationship drama. Set boundaries around resources while honouring your need for recognition and validation. Seek that validation within, because that's the validation that lasts and that you can call upon when life is lifing, and I can vouch for that. Once you find that, no one can ever take that away from you, and that's what we all want, right? We want that love that no one else can take, right? Mars is by quintal to Chiron, allows us to turn our trauma into superpower energy as we go into the weekend, right? And again, it creates a unique creative channel between our assertive energy and our deepest wounds. In esoteric astrology, this creates a powerful alchemical reaction between our Mars-ruled courage and self-assertion and self-empowerment, right? And our innermost vulnerabilities, giving us the potential to unlock special gifts and unique healing abilities that can help you overcome, and can only come from your particular life experience. So it wants us to recognize and discover creative ways to transform personal wounds into strength. It can give us unique insights about leadership that comes from being vulnerable and from self-acceptance and love and management, right? And special talents can emerge, come up from acknowledging and starting or continuing our healing journey. But temporarily, this can amplify increased pain that we experience before our breakthrough, right? And it requires courage to face what we've been avoiding. But our power move will be to look for the unexpected gift within our most painful experiences. This aspect supports creative healing approaches, art therapy, movement practices, or performances that transform pain into power, right? So we can ask ourselves, how can our emotional security actually benefit from some gentle disruption, some gentle change right now? Where are you experiencing tension between comfort and passion in your relationships? And what personal goals may you need to do, to align with your soul's growth, So, What goals do you need to change, reimagine, so you can, because some of you may have goals that are not in tune with your own purpose and your own authentic needs. There may be goals what your parents or society tells you to go after, and ask yourself, what unique gifts can you discover if you approach soul wounds with creative courage rather than avoidance, This day is basically a masterclass in transforming tension into creative power, and that's what I see life as, How are we going to process and manage the events that life throws and continue to throw at us, So on the 24th of July, the moon enters void of course at 1:42 a.m. The moon enters Cancer at 6:29 a.m. The sun makes a trine to Saturn at 12:24 p.m. and the sun's in Cancer and Saturn's in Pisces. The sun also makes a trine to Neptune at 6:32 p.m. and there's a new moon in Cancer at 8:11 p.m, right? So ultimately today it's a water trine, as I said at the beginning of this week, so it's an astrological waterfall of renewal, and the moon in Cancer and the moon's void of course give us that astrological pause button. It's like this energy is saying, hold up, let's rethink, recollaborate before we dive into get into today, right? And when the moon goes into Cancer, it's in its own little home, and so it's happy here, the moon's happy here, and our emotional bodies can awaken, and we can just be more protective and intuitive and nurturing because of this energy. And with the powerful new moon in Cancer at 8:11, right, our intuition can be supercharged, and our home and family feels and needs can become front and center. We can be more sort of like open to new beginnings and have more clarity emotionally, spiritually and psychologically, and it just allows us to plant new seeds that can be potent for changing our family relationships and the ways that we seek and give emotional security, right? And the sun's trying to Saturn creates a perfect balance between emotional authenticity and spiritual discipline, right? So it adds to us being able to have practical pathways to meeting our emotional goals. Our sensitivity can become a superpower, not a weakness. Our commitments to family or home can feel less like a burden and more purposeful or more open to them, or we can just have family meetings or relationship meetings with our intimate partners or friends that can help us be better friends, lovers and family members, right? And our boundaries around our emotional energy can become clearer and more sustainable. And in Vedic terms, the Suvrasana and Subna yoga supports creating structures, routine and habits that honour our emotional nature. So think of it as building a beautiful home for your feelings rather than trying to contain them, rather than, you're building a prison for them. You're building a home that allows them to be expressed in safe ways, The sun's trine to Neptune is a double water trine, and it opens psychic doorways and dissolves barriers between ourselves and the collective consciousness, So again, it adds to us having an ability to understand our emotions without needing words. We can have intuitive daydreams or flashes and insights that feel like remembering rather than discovering. It helps our creative inspiration to flow more better, especially our emotional expression, and our boundaries between our loved ones feel more like flexible in a good way, and it just increases our psychic receptivity in a grounded way, because we've got a lot of planets in Capricorn and Taurus earth signs, right? So this allows us to remain centered in emotional authenticity, and it's the perfect energy for dream work, spiritual bathing, rituals or emotional healing. So the best use of this energy is to create a new moon ritual focusing on emotional renewal, have heart-centered conversations with family members or those we care about, organise our home with intention and purpose, develop or continue practical spiritual routines that honour our emotional nature, and be open and trust in the intuitive insights that we get about how we can improve our relationships, In terms of questions we can ask ourselves today, you can ask ourselves, how have we been building walls instead of channels for emotions? And what emotional patterns are you ready to release? And what emotional world, space are you prepared to create to house your emotions, to look after your psychological, emotional and spiritual needs, right? And this rare water trine day is offering us the perfect mix of intuition, discipline and renewal, change, rebirth. And how can we honor both our sensitivity and strength, because this is what this energy is allowing us to do. So on the 25th of July, the Sun makes an opposition to Pluto at 7:33 a.m, Mars makes a quintile to Jupiter at 12:08, and the Moon enters void of course at 3:58. So I talked about Mars's quintile to Jupiter earlier this week. It's an aspect that's been influencing us this week, and the Sun's opposition to Pluto lasts just a few days. So in terms of Vedic terms, right, Surya, the sun, the solar consciousness, is facing off, with the shadowy underworld energies of Pluto, Yama, right, creating an intensely transformative standoff between our light and shadow self. Our emotional security system, represented by Cancer, is being challenged by deep karmic restructuring forces, Capricorn energy, right? So it adds to the deep, profound psychological insights that we can have this week, especially about things that we can't see. It's an opportunity to work with the psychic sort of vibrations and to release deep-seated emotional patterns. And we can have powerful encounters with authority figures, or become empowered ourselves, and we can have and once again it adds to the revelations that can come out around our family behaviours and patterns and stuff that can help us change. It also adds to the power struggles that can come up this week, and we can feel overwhelmed by the emotional intensity, and this can trigger control issues, right? And we can just be compulsive in our behaviour when we feel threatened, so try not to feel threatened. I know it's easier said than done. Try and take time out, and instead of fighting the transformation, the change, surrender to it. And it's ultimately allowing us to renovate our emotional basement, the things we hide from ourselves, and the more we resist, the more intense it gets. So once again, journaling about what we are desperately trying to control and why letting go feel so threatening can be really powerful. Ultimately, today's energy allows us to reflect on the things that we need to do, and it gives us a chance for deep psychological and spiritual revelations and insights. Capricorn and the energies of Cancer and Mars's quintile to Leo give us the creative fire and mental flexibility to deal with today's energies as we feel the tension between emotional security and changing our routine, structural evolution and growth, basically the tension between staying in our comfort zone and getting outside of our comfort zone, so we can ask ourselves, what deep emotional patterns are being revealed through today's challenges? Where are you clinging to control instead of surrendering to the necessary change? And a lot of energy once again is asking us to do this week, and how can we find new approaches to old problems? This day is basically asking us if we're brave enough to face our shadows, creative enough to reimagine the approach that we take, change the way we do things, and wise enough to know when to actively engage versus when to simply be present with what is. The universe is offering both the challenge and the creative solution all in one powerful day, but basically this week, right, supporting us to let go of the things we need to let go of. And finally, on the 26th of July, Venus enters Gemini at 4:27 a.m. Mercury makes a biquintile to the Moon's North Node at 5:23 a.m. The Moon enters Leo at 11:23 a.m. and Mercury makes a quintile to Uranus at 5:54 p.m. and the Sun makes a sextil quadrate to the Moon's North Node at 7:57 p.m. So Mercury's biquintile to the moon's north node adds to us being able to communicate in ways that are positive and heal the things we need to heal with in our relationships. It encourages us and supports us to express our ideas that support our growth and future goals. The moon in Leo brings an increase in our emotional energy and can bring feelings of warmth and generosity to our relationships, as well as the desire for recognition. But watch out for, overstepping the mark and just seeking validation and being overly dramatic in doing so and being needy and clingy. And this can add to the strain in relationship. Respect other people's boundaries, enforce your own boundaries, and remember the best validation comes from within. It's time to open up to your inner strength and express emotions with courage and creativity. Mercury's quintile to Uranus adds to the newness of thinking that we can have in the ways we communicate, being open to changing the way we communicate and think as well. It's a good energy that can help us brainstorm new ideas and encourages us and supports us in thinking outside of the box, right? And the Sun sextile quadrant to the moon's north node brings tension between our ego and our life's purpose, pushing us to reflect on how our actions align with our future goals and spiritual path, And Venus enters Gemini, so it supports us in being flexible in our relationships and intellectual connections, how we do things and go about taking in and processing information and communication. Information, a new word, right? So yeah, psychologically, it's all about the mind and communication. When Venus enters Gemini, it's like our brain is on high alert, ready to chat and connect. It can make us feel more talkative and expressive, like we've got a million thoughts racing through our head. It's a great time to share ideas, whether it's through conversations, writing or social media. Just be mindful of your words, as this transit can make us a bit too chatty sometimes, but it can also make us feel restless, like we're always on the go, always thinking about what's next. It's like our mind is a never-ending to-do list, right? And this can be mentally exhausting, so make sure you take some time out to relax and recharge, And if people are bombarding you with communication, don't be afraid to tell them to, not chill out, just tell them, I need some time out if that's the way you feel, And in terms of the karmic and spiritual meanings, it can indicate a need for open and honest communication. It encourages us to express our true self and share our thoughts and feelings with others. It's a time to be authentic and genuine in both our professional and professional life, and by doing so we can create deeper connections and build stronger relationships. On the spiritual level, it opens us up to the power of words and ideas, encouraging us to explore our thoughts and beliefs and share them with the world in an honest way, and to think about the way that we communicate. Does it give life, and does it take away from life? Does it give you energy, drain your energy, especially your thoughts that you're allowed to live in your head, do the uplift or drain you? It's a time to express your creativity and intuition and heal, by using creativity and intuition, whether it's through writing, art or even meditation. And by doing so, you can connect with your higher self and tap into your spiritual wisdom. On the esoteric level, it's all about the duality of communication. It encourages us to explore the different aspects of your personality and how they manifest, come out in communication. As I said, it's a time to understand the different voices within you and how they interact with each other, and doing this can bring a deeper understanding of yourself and relationships. It brings a sense of mystical and unknown, this energy. It's like your mind can be a portal to another world if you allow it and are ready to explore new ideas and concepts, and this can bring a sense of wonder and excitement, but also a bit of confusion. It's time to embrace and be open to the unknown and trust your intuition, So ultimately today's energy is all about expressing your thoughts and feelings both in your professional and personal life. This week is all about communication, connection, and it brings a whole lot of mental energy this week. But if we're just open to change and being as slow as we need to be to bring it into our life and exploring our creativity and our authentic self-expression, watching out for the confusion and restlessness this week's energy can bring, taking time out to relax and recharge, especially, using the Venus in Gemini energy, which wants us to think about the way we say things, taking time out to connect with our higher self and embrace the unknown. So ultimately this week, take any chance you have for growth and innovation. There's a lot of tension this week between your sense of self and authentic self-expression and, your life purpose and routine, the things you need to do to bring your dreams into reality, It's a week of social engagement, creative expression and thoughtful reflection on your path forward, Engage in stimulating conversations and explore new social connections. Be open to creative thinking and take calculated risks, strategic risks this week. Reflect on how your day-to-day actions align with your goals, as I said, and make the necessary changes. Ask yourself how you can use communication skills to support your future goals, and what creative ideas can you explore that can motivate your innovation, and how does your current path reflect your true identity and purpose. As I said, that's the big one this week, and as you navigate this week's astrological climate, tap into your self-empowerment and self-reflection and self-love and care and management, making the most of the opportunities that come your way, and the challenges as well, because the challenges can be turned into opportunities this week. So that's the end of the weekly scopes from the 20th of July to the 26th of July. I'm Amani, your holistic astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.